It was a quiet, humid summer evening, the kind that made the house feel more like a slow, lazy beast. Jason had been living here with his father and new stepmother for only a few months. The house had its rhythm, its slow, almost sleepy beat, but tonight it felt charged like static was hanging in the air. The move had been a big change. After his dad remarried, Jason found himself thrown into a new home, with new routines, and most notably, a new stepmom, Lauren. She was younger than his mom had been, with an energy that seemed almost out of place in the quiet, predictable life his dad had lived for years. Everything about her presence was bold, from her laugh that filled up any room to the way she moved, always with a kind of purpose that Jason found hard not to notice. Lauren had tried her best to make him feel welcome. He had to give her that. She'd always ask about his day, cook elaborate dinners, and even try to make conversation about things that mattered to him. But there was something else in those moments, a look that lingered a second too long, a warmth that he couldn't quite place. At first, Jason brushed it off, chalking it up to his imagination. Until tonight, Jason had spent most of the evening in his room, scrolling through his phone while the faint sounds of laughter and clinking glasses drifted up from downstairs. His dad had decided to host a small dinner for a few work friends, and Jason hadn't been interested enough to join. He had planned on staying upstairs, letting the hum of conversation below lull him to sleep. But then, after some time had passed, he heard footsteps on the stairs, lighter and more deliberate than his dad's. Curious, Jason muted his phone, listening as the footsteps came closer and stopped just outside his door. There was a light knock. "Hey, Jason," Lauren's voice floated in softly. "Just wanted to check in. You doing okay up here?" He hadn't been expecting that. Clearing his throat, he answered, "Yeah, just tired, I guess." She hesitated for a second. "Mind if I come in?" Surprised but intrigued, he quickly sat up. Yeah, sure." Lauren opened the door slowly and stepped inside, her soft perfume filling the room instantly. She was dressed in a fitted dark green dress, her hair swept to one side, looking more put together than he'd ever seen her. Jason found himself momentarily taken aback. This wasn't the kind of outfit you wore just to host a few friends for dinner. She looked around his room, her gaze finally settling on him with a warm smile. "Thought I'd just make sure you were comfortable here tonight. I know these dinners can be a little stiff." Jason nodded, glancing down at his hands, trying to avoid her eyes. "It's fine. It's just all a little new still, I guess." She sat down on the edge of his bed, closer than he expected, crossing her legs. "I get it. It's a big change. New house, new people." She paused, looking at him with that thoughtful, lingering look again. "If you ever need someone to talk to, you know I'm here for you, right?" The words felt simple enough, but there was a subtle tone in her voice, something softer, as though she was speaking a little too closely. Jason felt his pulse quicken. "You thanks?" They stayed there in silence for a moment, her gaze steady, a warmth filling the air between them that Jason couldn't quite define. Lauren gave him a gentle smile and looked around the room, her eyes lingering on the few unpacked boxes stacked by the closet. "Still getting settled in, huh?" She gestured at one of the open boxes filled with books and a few framed photos. "Yeah, I guess so," Jason replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "Feels like it'll take forever to get everything in place." Lauren's gaze softened, and she gave a small nod. "You know, I could help you with some of this. It'd go faster, and besides, it might give us a chance to get to know each other a little better." She picked up a framed photo of Jason's family, her expression shifting slightly as she looked at it, then placed it back on the bed. "Yes, sure," Jason said, his voice faltering just a bit. He hadn't expected her to take such an interest, but a part of him was drawn to her warmth and attention. She smiled, then leaned forward just enough that he could see the light dusting of freckles on her cheekbones. "I'm glad you're here, Jason. I think you'll find that life here can be pretty nice, maybe even a little exciting." Jason felt his face heat up, trying to look away before his reaction showed. "Thanks. I appreciate it." She laughed softly, standing up. "Well, I should probably get back downstairs before they come looking for me. But let's plan to unpack some of this tomorrow." Jason nodded, watching as she moved toward the door, pausing just before she left. "Good night, Jason," she said, her voice soft. "Night, Lauren." After she left, Jason lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He couldn't shake the feeling that their brief interaction had held something more. He knew it was crazy to even think it, but he felt it, a sense of closeness, a shared secret, perhaps. It was as though Lauren's presence lingered in the room long after she'd left. The next day, true to her word, Lauren was waiting for him in the living room when he came downstairs. She wore a comfortable sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back, looking casual but effortlessly beautiful. She smiled at him when he walked in, and he could feel that same warmth from the night before. "Ready to tackle those boxes?" she asked, handing him a cup of coffee she'd made for him. "Yeah, let's do it," Jason replied, his voice steadier this time, feeling more at ease. They spent the morning unpacking, talking as they sorted through books, old mementos, and childhood photos. Lauren seemed genuinely interested in hearing about his life, his school, his friends. The ease of the conversation surprised him, especially given that he'd barely known her a few weeks. As they unpacked the last box, Lauren sat on the floor, holding up a photo of Jason and his dad on a camping trip. She looked at him, her expression warm. "You know, your dad's been through a lot too. He's lucky to have you." Jason nodded, a mix of emotions tugging at him. "Yeah, I guess it's just strange seeing him with someone else. But I don't know, I'm getting used to it." She placed a hand on his shoulder, giving it a comforting squeeze. "Change is never easy, but you're handling it well. And I'm here if you need me, Jason." "Really?" Her hand lingered a second longer than he expected, and when she met his eyes, Jason felt that strange pull again. It was something he couldn't explain, and maybe something he shouldn't even be feeling. But in that moment, he realized just how much he appreciated her presence, her kindness, the quiet comfort she seemed to offer without even trying. Over the following weeks, Jason and Lauren fell into a natural rhythm. She'd often be waiting downstairs in the mornings with coffee, sometimes even sitting with him for a quick breakfast before he left for classes. Their casual conversations began to feel like something of a ritual, something grounding and comforting that Jason hadn't known he needed. Lauren listened with an ease that surprised him, as though everything he said mattered, no matter how small or trivial. One rainy evening, Jason returned home to find Lauren in the kitchen, preparing dinner. She glanced up with a warm smile as he walked in, setting down her spoon to give him her full attention. "Hey there," she greeted, her voice light. "I was just about to set the table. Hungry?" "Yeah," Jason said, shrugging off his jacket. "Smells amazing. I didn't know you could cook like this." She laughed, gesturing for him to join her at the counter. "You'd be surprised. I actually enjoy it, just wish I had someone to share it with." Jason felt a familiar heat rise in his cheeks and quickly busied himself with setting the table. "I'm glad to be that someone then," he said, trying to keep his tone casual. They sat together, the sound of rain pattering against the windows as they ate, laughing and talking like old friends. Jason found himself telling her things he'd never shared before, stories from his childhood, his dreams for the future, even his insecurities. And Lauren listened intently, her gaze steady and warm, never judgmental, only understanding. As they cleared the table, their hands brushed, and they both hesitated, the moment stretching longer than it probably should have. She looked at him, her smile softer, and for a second, Jason wondered if she felt the same strange connection he did. "Thanks for dinner, Lauren." "Really? This was nice." She nodded, her eyes lingering on him. "It was, wasn't it? I enjoy these moments with you, Jason. I didn't expect this closeness, but I think I needed it just as much as you do." As weeks turned into months, their quiet moments continued, each one deepening their bond. She'd listen to his late-night worries, offer gentle advice, and on some evenings, they'd even watch old movies together on the couch, her laughter filling the room. One late Friday night, Jason returned from a friend's house, only to find the living room light on. He hadn't expected anyone to still be up, but there she was, curled up on the couch with a book in her hand, looking serene and peaceful. "Hey, you're still awake," he said, surprised. She looked up, a smile touching her lips. "I like the quiet evenings. It's nice to unwind here after a long week." Jason settled beside her, the silence between them comfortable and easy. The lamp cast a soft glow over her face, and in that moment, she looked almost ethereal. He wasn't sure how much time passed as they sat there, but the warmth between them was undeniable. After a while, Lauren glanced at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Jason, I know things haven't been easy with all the changes, but I want you to know I'm here for you. I don't know how this happened, but I feel like we understand each other." Jason nodded, feeling the truth of her words resonate deeply within him. He knew it too. This wasn't just a bond born of circumstance. It was something else, something they both felt but couldn't quite name. Without thinking, he reached out, his hand finding hers. She looked down at their entwined fingers, and for a moment, they sat like that, the silence saying more than words ever could. Over the next few weeks, that connection between Jason and Lauren only grew stronger. They became almost inseparable, gravitating towards each other in the evenings, spending quiet mornings together whenever they could. Their conversations flowed seamlessly, and even in silence, there was a comforting familiarity that neither of them could ignore. What had once been polite gestures or friendly exchanges now carried an undeniable charge, a tension that simmered just beneath the surface. One Saturday afternoon, they decided to take a walk along a nearby trail. Lauren had suggested it on a whim, saying it would be nice to get out of the house for a bit, and Jason readily agreed, thrilled by the idea of spending the day with her outside of their usual routines. The sky was a brilliant blue, and the crisp air was invigorating as they strolled along the path, talking and laughing as if they had known each other for a lifetime. They stopped at a scenic overlook, the landscape stretching out in front of them. Jason stood beside her, feeling the weight of the quiet moment. Without thinking, he turned to look at her, catching the way her eyes sparkled in the sunlight, her laughter still lingering in the air. "Thank you for today," he said softly, almost as if speaking any louder might break the spell. I can't remember the last time I felt this at ease." She looked up at him, her expression open and unguarded. "I feel it too, Jason. You've become important to me, more than I thought possible." He nodded, swallowing the sudden lump in his throat. He wanted to tell her more, to let her know how deeply he felt this bond between them, but words seemed inadequate. Instead, he reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. She closed her eyes at his touch, and in that quiet, shared moment, they both knew there was no going back. That evening, back at home, Jason found himself unable to focus on anything but the memory of that moment. The way her eyes had softened, the way she had looked at him as if he were the only person in the world. They both knew this connection was treading into uncharted territory, but neither could deny its pull. As night fell, he found himself back in the living room, the same spot where they had shared so many quiet moments together. He waited, hoping she might join him as she often did. And, as if on cue, he heard her soft footsteps approaching. She entered, wearing an oversized sweater and looking as beautiful as ever, her hair loose around her shoulders. She gave him a small smile, taking a seat beside him, and for a few moments, they simply sat in silence, the weight of the unsaid filling the space between them. "Today was special," she said quietly, her voice tinged with something that felt like vulnerability. "I haven't felt that happy, that free in a long time." Jason turned to face her, his expression serious, his gaze intense. "Lauren, I don't know how to say this, but I think about you all the time. I can't stop thinking about what this is, what it means." She met his gaze, her own eyes filled with a mixture of fear and longing. "Jason, I know. I felt it too from the beginning, but this is complicated. We can't just—" He reached out, his hand finding hers, silencing her words. "Maybe we can't, but maybe it's okay to feel this, just for now." She took a shaky breath, her fingers lacing with his, and in that moment, it felt as though the world had shrunk to just the two of them. They leaned in, hesitating for the briefest of moments before their lips met in a soft, tentative kiss. It was gentle at first, a quiet acknowledgement of everything they'd been holding back, but it quickly deepened, both of them unable to resist the intensity that had been building for so long. When they finally pulled away, they sat in silence, their breathing heavy, their fingers still intertwined. Neither of them spoke, but they didn't need to. Their actions had already said everything. In the days that followed, they continued to dance around their newfound intimacy, each encounter brimming with a quiet intensity that neither of them could ignore. Every glance, every touch, every moment they shared seemed charged with a deeper meaning. And although they didn't speak of it openly, there was an understanding between them, an acknowledgement that they were both venturing into something powerful and forbidden. One night, as they were sitting in the kitchen after dinner, Jason reached out, gently placing his hand over hers. She looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of warmth and hesitation. "Are you okay with this?" he asked, his voice soft, almost vulnerable. "With us?" She nodded slowly, her fingers tightening around his. "I am. I know this isn't simple, but I can't pretend I don't feel this. I don't want to ignore it." Jason smiled, relief flooding his features. "Me neither. I don't know what this means for us, but I know I want to see where it goes." Lauren leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. "Then let's take this one day at a time. No expectations, no pressure. Just us." Jason nodded, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and trepidation. They were treading into unknown waters, but he couldn't deny the thrill of it, the sense that he was finally where he was meant to be, with the person he was meant to be with. Their connection continued to deepen, each moment together building on the last, their bond growing stronger with every shared laugh, every lingering glance. They knew that what they had was unconventional, maybe even impossible, but they couldn't bring themselves to care. One late evening, as they sat together on the back porch, watching the stars, Lauren reached out, taking his hand in hers. "Jason," she said softly, her voice tinged with something deeper, something raw. "I never expected this. I never expected you. But I'm so grateful I found you." He looked at her, his heart swelling with a fierce, unspoken love. "I feel the same. Whatever happens, I want you to know that." In that quiet moment, beneath the vast expanse of the night sky, they sat together, content in the knowledge that they had found something real, something that transcended boundaries and expectations. And for now, that was enough. The following weeks became a blend of stolen moments, quiet exchanges, and cautious steps forward. Lauren and Jason found comfort in the small rituals they created together. Morning coffee on the porch, quiet dinners, late-night talks. They were living a kind of unspoken romance, where every shared glance and lingering touch seemed to hold a world of meaning. One night, as they were sitting in the living room, the faint glow of the fireplace casting soft shadows on the walls, Jason found himself unable to hold back the thoughts that had been swirling in his mind. "Lauren, have you thought about where this is heading?" he asked, his voice quiet but insistent. She looked up at him, her eyes searching his face, as if trying to find the words she didn't quite know how to say. "Jason, I think about it every day," she replied, her voice filled with the weight of everything unspoken. "But sometimes I think it's better not to plan too far ahead. Just take each day as it comes." He nodded, understanding the sense of caution in her words. "I know, but sometimes I wonder if we're just pretending that this won't eventually reach a crossroads. We can't keep it a secret forever." She sighed, her gaze drifting toward the flickering flames. "I know, but I also don't want to lose what we have right now. It feels too precious, too fragile." Jason reached for her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "I don't want to lose it either," he whispered, his voice filled with an earnestness that spoke of his deeper feelings. They sat in silence, their hands intertwined, both of them lost in the thoughts of a future they couldn't quite define. And as they sat there, they felt the quiet pull of their bond, the unspoken understanding that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. As summer approached, their relationship continued to grow, each day bringing them closer. Lauren had started sharing more of her past, letting Jason into parts of her life she had previously kept hidden. They laughed over shared stories, opened up about regrets and hopes, and grew even more comfortable in each other's presence. But as the days grew longer, the inevitable questions began to weigh on them. They both knew they couldn't keep things as they were indefinitely. Friends and family had started to notice the closeness between them, the easy way they moved together, as if they were the only two people in the world. One evening, after a long walk through the quiet trails by the lake, Jason finally broached the topic that had been on his mind. Lauren, I think it might be time to start thinking about the next steps, he said, his voice tentative. I don't want to keep hiding this, or you anymore. Lauren looked at him, her expression torn. I feel the same way, Jason, but I'm scared. What if the world doesn't understand? He nodded, understanding her fear. We'll go slowly. No sudden moves, no pressure. Just together. We'll take it one step at a time. As long as you're with me, that's all I need. They stood there in the fading light, their hands clasped together, silently promising each other that they would face whatever challenges came their way, as long as they were side by side. It was the last weekend of summer, and they had planned a quiet evening at home to mark the end of the season. Lauren had prepared a simple dinner, and they ate together on the back porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The evening was warm, a gentle breeze rustling through the trees as they shared laughter, stories, and the comfort of each other's company. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Lauren looked at Jason, her eyes filled with a mixture of love and resolve. Jason, she said softly, her voice steady, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to stop hiding, to let the world see us as we are. He looked at her, his heart swelling with a mixture of relief and joy. Are you sure? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Yes, I don't want to keep this a secret anymore. I want to be with you. Openly, honestly. Jason reached for her hand, pulling her close as he wrapped his arms around her. They stood there in the quiet of the night, both of them feeling the weight of their decision, the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. From that night forward, they moved forward together, facing whatever obstacles came their way. Their love, once hidden in quiet moments and whispered confessions, had grown into something unbreakable, a bond that would withstand whatever challenges life might bring. And as they stood together under the stars, they knew that no matter what lay ahead, they would face it together, unafraid, unashamed, and unwavering. As the weeks passed, Jason and Lauren navigated their new reality with a cautious joy. They introduced their relationship slowly, carefully, choosing trusted friends and family members to confide in first. To their surprise, many of their closest friends were more supportive than they had anticipated. While some initially questioned the unconventional nature of their relationship, others understood the undeniable connection they shared. Their days became more open, their time together less secretive, and their love flourished in the light. They began to make plans for the future, dreams they had only whispered to each other in the stillness of the night. They discussed everything from travel destinations to career changes, relishing in the freedom to dream together without restraint. One autumn afternoon, as they were walking through the same lakeside trails where they had shared so many quiet conversations, Jason stopped and turned to Lauren, his eyes filled with a depth of feeling he had never known before. Lauren, he began, taking her hands in his, I've been thinking about everything. About us, our future. He took a breath, gathering his thoughts. I never imagined that life could feel like this, that I could feel this understood, this happy. I want to keep building this life with you. I want this forever. A soft smile played on her lips, and she nodded, her eyes shining with unspoken agreement. Jason, I can't imagine my life any other way now. I found a peace with you that I didn't know I needed, and I want forever too. With you? In the weeks that followed, they continued moving forward, blending their lives in a way that felt natural, as if they had been destined to walk this path together. They shared their love freely, allowing each day to deepen their bond, each step forward a testament to the strength of their relationship. Years passed, and Jason and Lauren built a life filled with laughter, love, and an unshakable sense of partnership. They faced challenges together, as all couples do, but the foundation they had created held them steady through each storm. Together, they traveled the world, built careers they were passionate about, and created a home filled with warmth and understanding. Through it all, they never lost sight of what had brought them together in the first place: the quiet connection, the mutual respect, and the shared dreams that had first drawn them to each other. And as they continued forward, hand in hand, they knew that their love, built on the strongest foundations of trust and truth, was something that would last a lifetime. They had defied expectations, forged their own path, and discovered a love that was all their own. And as they looked toward the future, they knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side, with open hearts and an unwavering commitment to the life they had built together. With every chapter they wrote together, Jason and Lauren's bond deepened. Their connection had come from unlikely beginnings, woven from threads of resilience and trust. Now, they spent every day grounded in a commitment that had grown through life's many challenges. In each moment, whether simple or extraordinary, they found in each other the kind of companionship they had both silently longed for. Jason took on a new project at work, one that would keep him busy and bring in new challenges, ones he was eager to share with Lauren. She, in turn, embraced new pursuits and finally brought to life her dream of opening a small boutique by the lake. They became each other's greatest allies, sounding boards and biggest fans. They shared every victory, every setback, and with each milestone, they were more certain that the future they'd chosen together was the one they'd been meant to find. It was on a snowy December morning, as the first light glinted off the frost-covered trees outside their home, that Jason took Lauren by surprise yet again. She had been warming herself by the fireplace, sipping her morning coffee, wrapped in her favorite blanket. "Lauren," he began, his voice warm, carrying the comfort of years of familiarity and love. He reached for her hand, his fingers gently intertwining with hers. "Life has a way of giving us what we never knew we needed. I didn't know then that you would be my person, the one who could see me for who I really am. I couldn't be more grateful that we took this journey together. And I want you to know that I'd choose you 1,000 times over, in this life and any other." She met his gaze, her eyes filling with tears of happiness, as he slipped a small, delicate ring onto her finger. The moment was simple yet perfect, a quiet symbol of their unbreakable commitment. No grand ceremony, no audience, just the two of them, standing in their cozy living room, surrounded by a lifetime of shared memories and dreams. As she gazed down at the ring, Lauren couldn't hold back her emotions. She hugged him tightly, her head resting against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, a rhythm that matched her own. "Jason," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "I couldn't have imagined a better life. With you, I found everything I didn't know I was missing. I choose you too, always." And as the snow continued to fall outside, blanketing their world in a peaceful silence, they knew that their story, filled with twists and turns, challenges and triumphs, was exactly the one they had both been meant to live. Their love, built on a foundation of honesty and understanding, would stand the test of time. And as they moved forward together, they felt ready for whatever else life had in store, knowing that they would face it, hand in hand, forever.